Episode 4 airs tonight, we're officially at the halfway point of the season, and the promo HBO put out this week is one of the most generous they've released, because almost every line in it lands directly on something we've talked about on this channel in the past 2 weeks. So let's walk through it properly, beat by beat, and I'll put my predictions for tonight on record at the end. One honest note before we start, because promo breakdowns deserve it. Trailers lie. Editors cut lines out of context, put dialogue over the wrong footage, and hide the real story on purpose. Everything I'm about to say is a read of 90 seconds of marketing, and some of it will be wrong by tonight. That's the game. Here we go. The promo opens with Rhaenyra, and she's asking the exact question this channel spent the week on. Why seize Tumbleton? And then she answers it herself, and I'm going to give you her line word for word, because it stopped me cold. He dares me to rain fire down on a seat that raised my banner. She sees it. If you watched my Ormund Hightower video yesterday, that sentence is the trap I described, almost clause for clause. Burn the town, and she burns her own subjects, people who raised her banner, and hands the Greens the story that ends her. Hold back, and her long arm looks short in front of the whole realm. I argued that Ormund built a position where both of her options hurt her, and the promo's first line is the Queen acknowledging exactly that. So the question tonight isn't whether she understands the trap, it's whether she can find a third option that isn't in the trap's design. And I think the promo quietly shows us her third option, but I'll get to that in a minute. Next, Daemon. His line in the promo is about money, and again I'll quote it because it's short and it matters. Our soldiers need to be paid, else there will be bedlam. 2 weeks ago, in the video about Ulf and Hugh, I argued that the empty treasury wasn't just a plot inconvenience, that the men she most cannot afford to underpay are the ones holding her biggest dragons, and that her downfall would start with the people she wasn't paying attention to, not the enemies she was. The show now has its own prince saying the first half of that out loud. And the coverage around this episode has already started asking openly how a tragedy at Tumbleton could turn Hugh against her, because his family is still inside that town, which was the whole point of that video. This thread is live tonight. Watch it. The Daemon material goes somewhere else interesting too. He's reportedly being sent to the Vale to squeeze financial support out of Lady Jane Eyre because the crown is broke. Fine, that's the surface plot. But think about who else is in the Vale. Rhaena, his daughter, hiding near the one place that turned her away, with a wild dragon she can barely control, carrying a secret that helped get Jace killed. And remember, Daemon was tasked back in episode 2 with discovering who the mystery writer at the Gullet was. The show has been sitting on that reunion for 3 episodes. Sending him to the Vale for gold and having him come back with only gold would be a waste of a trip, and this show doesn't waste trips. I think tonight he learns the truth, or gets close enough to smell it. Whether he reacts as a prince or as a father, I honestly don't know, and that's exactly why I want to see it. Then there's Ormund himself, and his one line in the promo is doing a lot of work. He declares his purpose is to restore the rightful line to the Iron Throne, and he calls it the will of the gods. The will of the gods, from the Lord of Oldtown. If you've watched the last 2 videos, you know why that phrasing made me sit up. The seat of the faith, the Starry Sept, is in his city. The High Septon refusing to anoint Rhaenyra and the Lord wrapping his broken oath in divine will are not 2 separate problems for her. They're one alliance, speaking 2 languages. He isn't just fighting her with an army, he's fighting her with heaven, and heaven happens to be headquartered behind his walls. And then the promo's final shot, which I need to describe carefully because it's brutal and we only get a glimpse. It appears to show Ormund burning someone alive. We don't know who, we don't know why, and I'm not going to pretend I do, but whoever it is, think about what an execution by fire inside or near Tumbleton does to every thread we've talked about. It hardens the hostage situation. It tests every civilian family in that town, including one family in particular, and it tells us the show's version of this man has fully left behind the cautious lord of the book. I said yesterday that book readers are as blind as everyone else now with this character. That shot is the proof. Quick hits from the rest of the promo because there are 3 more pieces on the board. Vhagar is back, the coverage confirms the old beast appears, which means the Harrenhal storyline wakes up tonight, and with it the question we've been sitting on since episode 2, what shape is Aemond in, and what has Alice done with 3 episodes of a wounded prince in her keeping? There's a glimpse of Rook's Rest, which is the name I've been waiting for since Aegon and Larys set out on that road, because Rook's Rest is where Sunfire fell, and a king reunited with his dragon is a different war. and Larys gets a line in the promo about guarding intentions quietly, warning that certain men hold allegiance only to themselves. We don't see who he's saying it to, or about whom, which of course is exactly how Larys would want it. One smaller name to keep an eye on. Torrhen Manderly, who stood out at the banquet last week, is getting attention in the coverage as someone stepping closer to Rhaenyra's administration. New advisors arriving just as the Queen's old alliance's crack is worth tracking, especially after last week. Because let's do the quick honest scorecard on those alliances before predictions. The Corlys situation didn't just cool the way I suggested it might in the dinner video. It ruptured publicly, harder and faster than I expected, with the Sea Snake saying out loud in open court the one word he spent 20 years protecting those boys from. I predicted quiet anger. What we got wasn't quiet. I'd rather be wrong in that direction than pretend I called it, but the destination is the same one that video warned about. House Valyrian's loyalty is now an open question, and she needs the sea and Mysaria. She's in the promo, briefly, and I think her presence is the answer to the question from the top of this video. Rhaenyra's third option. She can't burn Tumbleton, and she can't ignore it. But she has a mistress of whispers with a network that reaches places dragons can't, and a town full of her own people who have no love for the army holding them. If there's a move that beats Ormund's trap, it doesn't come from the sky. It comes from inside the walls. So, predictions on record, and hold me to all of them tonight. No dragonfire falls on Tumbleton in this episode, whatever she threatens. The counter move runs through Mysaria, something covert, inside the town, not over it. Daemon finds out about Rhaenyra, or comes one scene short of it, and Aegon reaches Rook's Rest by the end of the hour, because the halfway point of a season is exactly when a show puts a king back on the board. The big battle itself, I suspect they're holding for next week, tonight feels like the tightening of the knot rather than the cut. If I'm wrong about that last one and the battle explodes tonight, then everything I've kept quiet about Tumbleton for 3 weeks arrives early, and I'll see you at midnight either way. Your turn. One prediction for tonight, just one, in the comments before the episode airs. I'll pin whoever gets closest, and last week's winner set a high bar. The Ormund video, the Dragon Seeds video, and the State of the War breakdown are linked below if you need to catch up before tonight. Enjoy the episode.